deal with a company called Landis. And Landis is a company that is designed to help people rent to own in order to buy their own home. And a scholar by the name of Nicole Hannah Jones, Nicole Hannah Jones at Howard University, is now referring to Will Smith and Jay Z as predators. She's saying that their business deal is predatory. I want to break some of this down for you tonight on drboystv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. So I want you to get comfortable, buckle up your seatbelt. We're about to get started right now.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm, great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones too late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV. Here we are.
Hey, what's going on, guys? What's going on? My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. Welcome to drboystv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. On this platform, we talk about Black economics. We talk about things happening in the Black community. And we break it down. I like to break it down for you in a way that does not insult your intelligence. I don't believe Black people are stupid. I believe that we are meant to be very intelligent, very smart. I also believe that we are supposed to put ourselves first. I believe that our community is our top priority, as it should be all the time. And I believe that we can solve our own problems. And that is the B1 philosophy. That means Black first. And if you agree that it's okay for Black people to put ourselves first, to build our own businesses, educate our own kids, do things for our own community, put a hashtag B and the number 1 in the chat, hashtag B1. That's the hashtag we use so that all the B1 people can talk to each other. Let's talk about this. Let me ask you, let's start with a yes or no question. So Jay-Z and Will Smith just made a business deal together. It involves a company called Landis, which does something really interesting, some rent to own type stuff, right? They basically help people buy homes by setting them up where they can rent the home from the company. The company will go out and actually buy your house for you, and then they will rent it to you for 2 years. And during that time, according to the agreement, they will take a portion of your rent and save it toward a down payment for a house. Well, after a couple of years, if you're ready, you go and you buy the house from the company. Now, first off, let me ask you this. How many of you, give me a yes or no, how many of you heard about this deal? How many of y'all heard about Jay-Z and Will Smith's new business venture? Give me a yes in the chat if you even heard about this. Okay, all right. So I see a few yeses and I see a few nos. Okay, so let me just kind of give you some background on this. Okay, so the company called Landis, as I mentioned earlier, Landis is a company that I took some time to Google and I looked them up to kind of see what they were all about. You know, what does Landis do? Could they be predatory? What's going on? It got my attention because Hannah Nicole Jones, if you recall, Hannah Nicole Jones was a sister who went up for tenure I guess she wanted to get tenure at the University of North Carolina. I do not think she has a PhD, though. I don't think she has a PhD, but she is a noted journalist. You know, she's done some good work. She actually created something that Alicia and I enjoy called the 1619 Project. And there's her picture if you want to see, you know, what a smart Black woman looks like. So shout out to Hannah Nicole Jones for her excellent work. And Hannah was in the middle of some national controversy recently because she went to North Carolina Chapel Hill and she wanted to come in with tenure. And I felt like, well, why not? You know, I mean, she's done a lot of great work. But then again, there were some scholars I spoke with who kind of wondered what she'd actually done to deserve tenure. Even, you know, her work was good, but she's not a professor. She doesn't have a PhD or anything like that. Now, maybe in journalism, the rules change. I don't know. I know that my wife is a full professor of social work. And I can just tell you guys, it wasn't as cut and dry as some people think. Although we know UNC has a long history of racism. So why not give an opportunity to the Black woman? So I was all for it. But at the same time, I can understand why a person who isn't racist would say, okay, you know, really, she's not from academia. I don't know. But then again, I don't care. I think, as you guys know, I was at Syracuse University for 13 years. She had a great journalism school. And I kind of figured out a long time ago that tenure is kind of welfare for smart people. Basically, it kind of guarantees you this lifetime job. Well, anyway, I guess she got her tenure at UNC, but she kind of gave him the middle finger and went off to Howard. Shout out to her for going to an HBCU. Howard does a relatively decent job. I think they need to stop just mass producing Negro employees, because as you saw recently, there was a recent study that showed beyond any reasonable doubt that getting college degrees was actually increasing the wealth gap. I'm sure Hannah's aware of the wealth gap, and I'm sure she saw the story in the Wall Street Journal this week that said that actually going to expensive schools, whether it's Howard or Yale or any other school, that's actually causing the wealth gap to grow. And I've been saying this for about 15 years now, actually, because you guys know my doctorate's in finance, and I've been breaking it down for you. You can't expect your wealth to increase when you're taking on that much debt so that you can go and get a job working for a white person who's only going to pay you enough money to stay J-O-B, just over broke, right? If you're not learning, I'm saying this slow so the Negroes in the back can understand what I am talking about. If you never learn the basic skills of wealth building, meaning home ownership / stock market investing / starting your own business, then you will never be able to accumulate a positive net worth necessary for you to catch up with white people. Black people who do those things tend to have more wealth than the average white person. Black people cannot be turned into a nation full of employees. So Howard University, if you're listening, get your entrepreneurship game tight. Start creating your investors. Stop mass producing employees. We know why you work. We know the history. Go look up the history of Howard University. In the book club every Wednesday that we do, we're reading Dr. Claude Anderson's books. Dr. Claude Anderson is the most notable Black scholar in the last 100 years. He lives right down the street from Howard University. They've never invited him to come speak. That right there tells me that me and you ain't built the same. We're not built the same. How are you going to tell me that Dr. Claude Anderson, whose books have been cited, they were cited by Ice Cube when he challenged the Democrat, Republican, racist establishments. They were cited by Kanye West when he questioned why Black people aren't building wealth. And it is fascinating to me that they literally are sitting there and they act like this giant does not exist. When you start looking at Black giants, the elephant in the damn room, and you act like you don't see the elephant in the middle of the room, then something's wrong with you. You're blind as a bat. And that's why your people end up going backwards. That's why a lot of Howard University graduates are wondering, Mama, why did I go get this bachelor's degree and I'm still $150,000 in debt 10 years later? Well, it's because studies show that half of all Black college graduates can never repay their student loans. So this wealth thing is complex, but it's really not. It's only complex because I don't understand what complex mathematics have to be performed to get people to open the goddamn ears and start listening to solutions, as opposed to simply thinking that getting closer to white people is going to somehow fix your problems magically. Now, with that said, let me get back to the point here. Let me make sure we stay on point. Everything I say has a purpose, but sometimes I say a lot. And I piss people off, and I don't mean to do that, but I got to tell y'all the truth. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, hit the thumbs up, share, subscribe button. And blackkeystogreatness.com is where our book club is. We read Dr. Anderson's books every Wednesday night. We're analyzing Black labor, white wealth, which gives you a deep, rich history and understanding of exactly how white people took all your shit for the last 400 years and exactly why you should be demanding reparations, and exactly why your communities are in shambles, and exactly why I can go to the north side of Chicago and everything's beautiful and the streets are paved with gold. But then I go to the south and west side of Chicago and I see chaos with little kids getting shot in the street, cracked sidewalks, drugs everywhere, everything's torn apart. Let me keep going here. So Jay-Z and Will Smith have invested in this company called Landis. And Nicole, I don't know where this was coming from. I don't know why Nicole decided she wanted to call them out. Maybe she just, got happy on Twitter. I have no idea. But I'm going to read what she wrote, and I'm going to read it with respect, because I do respect Nicole Hannah-Jones, but I also respect all solutions that are going to be different from what we've had before. And I'm going to explain to you why I think that Nicole Hannah-Jones might want to do a little more research before she starts throwing around words like predator. And because it feeds into this pre-existing narrative that many people have, that there are Black feminists out here who feel like every day when they wake up, their number one job is to destroy Black men. that their number one job is to make sure that they find every masculine black man, every black man who's not trying to wear a tutu and twerk his ass in prison like Lil Nas X, that we're going to find him and we're going to chop off his balls, because at the end of the day, we're competing with men. I don't understand exactly what was driving her to use a word like predator to describe this business venture between Jay-Z and Will Smith. I think that you could have probably approached it in a little bit more of a constructive way, particularly since all of your liberal allies have utterly failed, completely failed at creating any solution for Black people that involves the development of Black wealth. They have failed. They have failed. Nikole Hannah-Jones, she went to Howard, and I would have hired her. She brought $20 million with her, but it wasn't her $20 million. It wasn't her $20 million. It was $20 million that came from the Knight Foundation, the MacArthur Foundation, the Ford Foundation, and an anonymous donor. I don't know if that's the same anonymous donor who funded that fake Black Lives Matter movement where Black life wasn't preserved and Black people actually didn't benefit from all that money they were collecting from big white corporations. I don't know who that anonymous donor is, but at the end of the day, I don't see these white people lining up to fix the Black wealth problem in America. They're not doing the damn job. They're failing. Period. I don't dislike Nikole Hannah-Jones. I like her. I really do. But her liberal white friends are failing. They're getting Black people showing up at every election, praying to white Jesus, hoping for the best, and they're failing. All these neighborhoods that they're in charge of, we've been voting them into office for decades, they are failing. They are failing. Can we at least agree that they are not succeeding at closing the racial wealth gap? In Black Labor, White Wealth by Dr. Claude Anderson, he made a clear point. He showed you that even when there was a massive increase in the number of Black people getting elected to office, most of them Democrats, even though we went from about 103 Black elected officials in the early 1960s to 8,000 Black elected officials by the 1990s, Black wealth had not moved 1 inch. So I'm about to become a Scooby-Doo detective and explain to you why it did not move. A lot of it is rooted in white liberalism and the communist, socialist, Marxist foundations of white liberalism. Now, there are a lot of good ideas on the Marxist side of the fence. Karl Marx has a lot of excellent critiques of capitalism. I don't disagree with hardly any of them. Karl Marx made great points about how the capitalist machine is subject to all kinds of disruptions and failures and crashes. I agree. He said capitalism can put you in a space where you feel like a cog in a wheel and you lose your purpose in life and you can't do anything meaningful because you're just working for this big corporation. I agree. He had a lot of good critiques about capitalism, but let me tell you this. All these trained Marxists have not been able to put no money in Black people's pockets. They haven't been able to help Black people build any wealth. These liberal ideas are not designed to empower you. They're designed to make you soldiers in whatever little fight they were having before you came along. So I'm giving you the backdrop here because I want to say this, with complete respect for Hannah Nicole Jones and Howard and the good things that they're doing there. The fact is, you don't have the solution. What you're doing is not working. Black wealth is not growing. Even your own students needed Robert Smith to come in and pay off their student loans because he knew that most of them would be drowning in debt 10, 15 years later. So why are you not talking to Dr. Claude Anderson about how to develop industry in the Black community so that we can create our own jobs? Let me keep going. Hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up, share, subscribe button if you haven't done it yet. So here's what Hannah had to say. Let me give the sister her props on this. Okay, so she says that credit counseling is not what will take low-income renters to homeowners. Wealth will. So basically, Landis, this company that Jay-Z and Will Smith have partnered with, Landis basically what they do is you apply. I went to their website. I went through it. You apply by basically telling them, look, this is the home I want to get. And you can put in, I actually went through the whole process. I didn't actually apply, but I filled out everything I could up to the application. So they asked me what city. I picked Baltimore, and I picked a $300,000 house in Baltimore. And I said, I want to buy a $300,000 house in Baltimore. And they told me that my monthly payment would be about $2,600. And of that $2,600, about $500 or so would go toward saving for a down payment over the next 2 years. They said that after I saved that money for 2 years, that money would go toward a down payment where I could buy the house from them with a monthly payment of approximately $1,760. That's what Landis said. So Landis laid out this deal, and apparently you have to apply. I don't think everybody can get it, but that was the layout, right? And then they actually have a section that says, how does Landis make money? So the way Landis makes their money, if I recall correctly, they said we make our money from the appreciation in the home value in the 2 years that we own it. We'll buy your house, so we make the capital gains from the appreciation in the home value, and also we make money when you're paying rent to us, right? So that's the deal, right? So you're paying rent to them as your landlord for 2 years. They take a portion of your rent money, save it up for you in, I guess, some sort of fund, and then they put that toward the down payment on the house if you buy it from them after 2 years. After 2 years, you get the option of either staying and continuing to rent from them, or they end the deal, or I don't know who ends the deal. That was the question. That was the part I'm still not sure about. And somebody from Landis, if they ever want to come on and explain, they can. But they at the end of the 2 years, it sounds like somebody makes a decision as to whether the deal will go on or not. And then also they said that if you choose not to buy the house, and I went through the FAQ because I was curious about this, they said that your money would be put as a credit toward home ownership. I don't know what that means, right? I don't know what that means. They would give you all your money back. You're meaning all the money you saved for the down payment, a part of it back. I have no idea. But anyway, I want to ask you guys this question. Based on what I have described to you, do you feel like that's predatory? Give me a yes or no. I'd be curious to know what you think. Do you feel that people who sign up for Landis, now it sounds to me like it's voluntary, like it's not something that you are being forced to do. It's not like they're coming to your house and putting a gun to your head and making you take the deal. But do you think that it's predatory? Okay, so from the cat's eye says no. Half Urban, let's see, IB Music says yes. Half Urban says yes. Arthur Norris says yes. Tia Nia says no. Okay, so it looks like we're kind of right down the middle in terms of whether or not people feel that it's predatory. So here's the thing that I'm trying to figure out though. If you talk about the experience of most low-income people, and I was a low-income person at one point. I mean, I was in graduate school and I had an apartment in Rochester, New York, and I had to break my lease in the middle of the night because I couldn't pay the rent. And so I paid rent. How many of you have also paid rent at some point in your life? Maybe you're still paying rent. There's no shame in that. A lot of us have. I remember kind of feeling like I had to pay rent somewhere. I remember feeling like, God, I wish a bank would trust me by understanding that the amount that I'm paying in rent is more than the amount I would be paying if I had a mortgage. So one of the weirdest things about the system in general, I think we can agree on this, is that it's kind of odd that you can pay a lot of money in rent, but then you'll find out that the mortgage would only be half or a third of what you're paying in rent. But somehow the bank concludes that even though you've been paying $2,000 a month in rent, that you can't afford a $1,200 mortgage. That's weird to me. That doesn't make a lot of sense, right? I mean, if I can afford $2,000 a month in rent, why can't I afford a $1,200 mortgage, right? So the whole system, if you want to know if capitalism, if the essence of it can create some weird, creepy, predatory scenarios, the answer is probably yes, right? There is such a thing as predatory capitalism to a point where predatory to me isn't necessarily just because you got screwed. It occurs either because you were screwed by the fine print and you didn't know what you were signing and didn't have the financial literacy to understand the deal, or maybe you were screwed because you just had no other options, right? So the person that gives you that one option that you didn't have before, maybe they're not necessarily the predator. The system itself can be defined as being predatory. I don't disagree with that. We can all agree that capitalism, particularly in its purest form, is problematic and leads to slavery. Now, here's where I'm going to actually invoke something that a lot of my white liberal friends don't appreciate, this thing called personal responsibility. Now, I believe this. Look, if you go to Landis's website, there's nothing on the website that says that you have to sign anything with Landis. They seem pretty transparent in terms of explaining. They say, look, this is how we're going to make our bread. And this is how you're going to get your bread too. This is how you win and we win. This is a partnership. Yes, we're going to make our paper. We're going to make our profit. And that's okay. We're a company. We're going to make money. But you're going to benefit because you get to be a homeowner. Now, what happens if you miss a payment, John Taylor? That's a good question. I'm going to go look that up. Also, the interest rate, is it variable? Is it fixed? That's a good question as well. But assuming that it's, say, a fixed interest rate, and assuming that there's some sort of reasonable clause for, what happens if you miss a payment, I don't necessarily know if I would have seen this as a predatory opportunity. Because look, if you take Landis out of the equation, let's say I apply for Landis and I don't get accepted, what options do I have at that point? I mean, let's say my credit score is not good. I don't have money for a down payment, so I can't get a house. What am I going to do? Well, I'm going to go and I'm going to do what most people do. I'm going to go get me an apartment and I'm going to pay rent. The rent will not be part of any rent to own option. The rent will not lead to my eventually having the opportunity to buy a house. The rent will basically be the landlord inserting an iron rod up my butt for the next 5 or 10 years, where by the time I'm done, I literally will sit down and say, my God, I paid this man $2,000 a month in rent for the last 10 years. That's 120 months. So I'm trying to do the math. Is that what's that, $250,000 or something? 24,000. Yeah, about a little bit less than $250,000, which would have easily grown to maybe $750,000 or more if I had been able to put that money in an S&P 500 mutual fund, or perhaps even put that money into owning my own home. Right. So we can all agree, I think, that if you got your government, again, all these white people you keep voting to put in office, and some of these black people who are working on behalf of the Democrats, if they simply open the door to really creating opportunities for black people to access capital, a lot of these problems will go away. Right. Access to capital is one of the biggest problems that we have, not just as black people, but if you talk about low income people like that, that's a big issue. And one area where I'm not particularly in alignment with a lot of the black liberals is that they want to save everybody. They want to talk about poor whites and Native Americans and gay people and everything else. I don't want to talk about none of that shit. I want to talk about black folks. I'm B1. Fix our issues first, and then we can go start talking about everybody else. I'm tired of putting everybody else's needs ahead of our needs. I'm tired of waiting on everybody else to get their seat at the table before we get our seat. I'm tired of everybody else getting their reparations along with ours. No, focus on us. Get us our money first, and then I'll support anybody else getting what they deserve. So at the end of the day, when you really look at this is an easy thing to resolve. You've got a fundamental problem that you've got big white universities that will loan you, and some big black universities too, that will loan you $100,000, $200,000 to go to college, but won't loan you $30,000 to start a business. They won't loan you $50,000 for the down payment on a fucking house. What is going on right here? They'll loan you all the money that you need to go deep in debt to get a damn college degree, but won't let you go in debt to become a wealth builder. If I had a choice, I got a lot of degrees. I have a lot of education. I had more education by the age of 25 than most people have in their whole entire life. I was teaching college students when I was 22 years old. So I got a lot of education. But do you understand me when I tell you that I would have traded damn near all those degrees if you'd have gave me a capital base of about $250,000 at the age of 25? Because with that $250,000 capital base, I could have become a homeowner. With that capital base, I could have become a business owner. With that capital base, I could have become an early stock market investor, buying shares of Amazon when they were $50 a piece. Do you understand how many things I could have done with that money? That I could not do by being a smart Negro with no capital at all. I had no money. I had lots of education, but I had no capital base. So allowing people access to capital is one of the most important things you can do. So going back to Landis and this deal with Jay-Z and Will Smith, I think that if you use a term like predatory, which I think was unnecessarily vicious, and again, it feeds into my suspicion that Nikole Hannah-Jones might be in that liberal feminist category, which means, if you're a straight black man, you can't do nothing right except agree with them. I really think that it didn't have to be that nasty, right? I also think that, unfortunately, and this is the reason why I'm not a liberal, and I don't know, maybe I'm a little conservative. I have no idea. I'm not a Republican. That's for sure. But I can't run with the liberals because the liberals are always putting people into the victim box, and there are people who don't realize how much you're being crippled and handicapped when people put you in the victim box. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you want to refer to Jay-Z and Will Smith as predatory for investing in Landis, but yet Landis has done everything that they can on their website to say, hey, look, we're going to be transparent. Look, you don't have to do this. That's the first thing, right? We're not forcing you. But hey, if you want to sign up, here's what it is. Here's what you do. Here's what we do. Here's how it works. If you go to their website, seriously, I'm actually show you a screenshot of the website. The most they can do is be transparent. The most they can do is tell you what it is. So let me show you. So look, here it is. Now they got black people on here, so you know who they targeting. They're targeting us, right? So okay, how it works: success stories, coach app, home calculator, about. And then they give you an FAQ. What does the FAQ say? What is Landis? How does Landis work? You apply on our website and get pre-qualified. You pick your dream home with one of our partner agents. We buy the house, you rent it from us for up to 2 years while building up your credit and down payment. When you are ready, you buy the house back at a predetermined price. So you determine the price in advance. So they don't say, hey, sign the document and then we're going to pick a price magically. We're not going to tell you what it is to the last minute because we want to do a rope-a-dope on. They say it's predetermined. How does Landis compare to renting? Landis allows you to rent a home until you can buy it using a mortgage. Landis helps you transition to home ownership, which is cheaper than renting, ultimately saving you money. Landis also allows you to move into your dream home and to customize it from day one so you don't have to move again when you transition to home ownership. Well, let me just tell y'all this. Let me just tell y'all a little secret. Let me tell y'all a secret. When I was, 28 years old, that was like the worst year of my life, man. I was in graduate school. I was broke as a joke. I had to move out of my apartment in the middle of the night because I couldn't pay the rent. My credit wasn't no good. I declared bankruptcy like a couple years earlier. Black man problems. That's what I had. If a company had come along with an offer like this, if they had come along and said, look, you've been paying rent all these years and you ain't getting nothing for it. Keep paying rent to us. Pick your house out now and keep paying rent just like you were before. But at the end of those 2 years, during those 2 years, we're going to help you get your credit fixed. And we're going to take a portion of your rent money and allow you to apply it to your down payment. I'm not going to lie. I would have jumped all over that deal in a second. I would have jumped on that deal, not because it's a perfect deal, not because it's perfect. I'm sure Landis is going to get their money. But I would have jumped on the deal because that was the best option I would have had. That was better than any option I had as a young black man. There was nothing else out there for me to do other than to continue to pay rent. Right. And so Angela says rent to own home ownership is not new. I agree. Rent to own has always been a thing. Right. And we know that sometimes rent to own, while the word predatory is a word that gets slung around a lot, I would say that at the very least, you have some really bad deals. But in all those cases, they have laws where they have to be transparent about what you're signing up for. They have to make sure you know what it is. And there are people that, despite knowing what it is, still want to do it. Like when you talk about check cashing places, right? Like people say, well, it's predatory to put a check cashing place up. But there are poor people who say, no, I want the check cashing place because I ain't got no better options. So I would almost say that, if I was talking to a Hannah Nicole Jones or Nicole Hannah Jones, I keep saying it wrong, I'm sorry. I would probably say to her, yeah, maybe you could say that this isn't a perfect deal. But here's your problem. You've been telling people that the liberals are going to come save them since forever, and they can't offer a better alternative. Now, if you were successful in getting your buddy Joe Biden to go and really change the banking laws, which he does not, Joe Biden, remember, he was the one who actually created the legislation that made it illegal for you to write your student loans off in bankruptcy. I don't know if y'all know that or not. Biden did that. So you got that and the crime bill. Those are two things. Again, and now you're still telling me that he's my buddy, but he done locked up more black men than any president in American history. And he's the one who decided you can never declare bankruptcy on your student loan. So, well, if those are your friends, then you don't need no enemies. So no, you ain't got enemies because your friends are your enemies. And so to me, I would almost challenge the liberals. It's very easy. It goes back to when I was telling you earlier that Karl Marx had a lot of great critiques of capitalism, and I didn't disagree with hardly any of them. But it's one thing to be able to criticize something and to destroy something, and it's another thing to be able to build something better. And so one of the things that you see on a regular basis politically is you see a lot of folks, liberals and conservatives do this. They will criticize the hell out of something that someone else created, criticize the hell out of somebody's solution. But then when you turn to them and say, okay, so give us a better solution and implement that so we can actually choose that option, they say, well, we don't have a better solution for you. So what are people supposed to do? The real world does not operate in theory. Liberals, my liberal, remember, I know the hoity-toity academics. I was around them my whole life. I'm a scholar too. I got my PhD in the year 2002. And one of the things I notice about hoity-toity academics is, unfortunately, at their very worst, they can become extremely self-righteous. They can become extremely idealistic, and they think that the world's supposed to operate within some sort of theoretical fantasy bubble. And when you get into the real world, where people have to make real choices and choose whatever the best options and alternatives are for them, sometimes they'll do things that don't make a whole lot of sense in an academic journal. So I don't have a big problem with what Jay-Z and Will Smith are doing. I think that by Nicole Hannah-Jones sort of talking about the customers as if they are victims, I think that we need to stop sort of accepting this idea that we are too stupid to read a contract. I think that we have to stop accepting the idea that even when somebody tells us exactly what it is, that somehow that still makes them a predator. Look, it's like if I'm a man who's looking for a wife and I meet a pretty girl and I say, hey, I'm looking for a wife. And the woman says to me, well, I don't want a husband. I'm looking for a one-night stand. And I say, but I'm looking for a wife. And she says, yeah, but I'm looking for a one-night stand because my name's Cardi B and I just want to get it in. And then let's say I sleep with Cardi B that night. And then the next day I say, well, I thought you were going to be my wife. And she says, Negro, I told you I only wanted a one-night stand. And then I say, oh, I'm a victim. You victimized me. You're a predator. You took advantage of me. I wanted a wife and you gave me a one-night stand. No, she told you what it was, you dumbass. She told you what it was. So what I'm saying to you at the end of the day is that, look, the most you can require of any legally operating business is for them to tell you what it is, tell you what you're signing up for, what you're getting into. That's the most they can do. And if you still sign up knowing what it is, and then it doesn't work out for you, how the hell are you a victim again? Who told you that you're a victim? See, some people sit on the victim box and they won't get off that box. And that's a thing that I will tell you, I promise you, on a stack of Bibles, 100 feet high, Black people, you will never be able to win economically if you are always running for the victim box. You ain't stupid. You're not mentally ill. You are capable of reading contracts. You are capable of making intelligent decisions. And I can understand every reason why a logical human being would sign up for something like Landis and not feel like they were being victimized. They might say, hey, this ain't the cleanest way to become a homeowner, but it works. It's not the most efficient pathway to home ownership, but I'm glad I did it. I can see somebody really saying that. Okay. So that's my 2 cents on it. I think that it's kind of, I really don't like this idea that we've allowed people to intertwine Blackness with leftist ideologies. I don't like that. Everything is coming from Marxism. I think Black Lives Matter the lady running Black Lives Matter was a trained Marxist. That's why if you went to the Black Lives Matter website, it was completely muddled with all this transgender gay language that had nothing to do with being Black. I mean, don't get me wrong. We got gay Black people and I love y'all too. Y'all are always welcome to the platform. But why is all this other stuff muddling the Black struggle? Why is it that we always have to end up carrying water for all these other people with these predefined purposes? And I believe that it comes down to the fact that people on the left, the Marxists, communists, socialists, etc., have always been at war with capitalism. So in their world, unfortunately, for some of them, not all of them, but for many of them, every business owner is a predator. Why is a business owner a predator? What? Because he worked hard and made investments and built a company from nothing. He started off poor like you, and now he's rich. So suddenly he's a bad person. Like, why is it that every wealthy person must automatically be evil by default? You know what that does? You know what that creates? That creates the Shaun King chaos. Right now, Shaun King is being dragged, by mainly a lot by the left and the right. Why? Well, because him and his wife had a decent house, like $800,000 house in New Jersey. I mean, it ain't no shack, but it's not this lavish, sprawling mansion with 25 acres and a big, gigantic Olympus-sized swimming pool. It's a decent house. Shaun King does great work. Why shouldn't Shaun King be able to live in a decent house without somebody somehow saying he's a capitalist predator pig? Like, that's kind of weird to me. Right? Well, that comes from the fact that many people have mistakenly created the assumption that being part of the Black struggle means taking a vow of poverty. That if you're not broke and poor, if your kids ain't dusty, if you eating good, then that means you ain't keeping it real. You're not keeping it 100. You're not really down for the struggle. Well, let me tell you a little secret, Black people. Let me tell you a little secret. I know the white liberals were the ones who scooped you up off the sidewalk and claimed to be your allies. They all got these, people like Hannah Nicole Jones and Ta-Nehisi Coates and others. They have white liberal allies who pay the bills. That's why, Ta-Nehisi, I think he brought $5 million into Howard. His chair is endowed by a bunch of white people. I don't know which particular white people have adopted them. It's like adopting little children or something, but they adopt Black people. So Ta-Nehisi is the Hannah, he's the Sterling Brown chair in the English department, and Jones brought in $20 million to support her endowment or her chair, which came from the Knight Foundation, the MacArthur Foundation, the Ford Foundation. All of these are organizations that would never give money to a Negro like me because I don't know when to keep my mouth shut. But here's the thing. None of these people on any level have ever proven to have any ability to develop industry and true wealth in the Black community. None of them. All they've been able to do is to create an elite class of Black liberal scholars who become the darlings of the white liberal establishment. And they go around the country talking about poor Black people and getting, massive speaking fees and selling, 100,000 copies of their books. And they get on TV. And at the end of the day, they become, They become water boys for the Democratic Party. That's what they become. And the boule, that's another term that people might use for them. And if you really look at the anatomy of what they've accomplished nothing in terms of job creation for Black people. They've accomplished almost nothing in terms of wealth creation for Black people. They've accomplished almost nothing in terms of true institutional development for Black people on a fundamental level that is disassociated from the paternalistic ideological imperialism of the white liberal establishment. White people come along and they smack them around like little bitches whenever they get out of line, because at the end of the day, the person who pays the bills is the one who makes the rules. So let me see. Let's see here. So Moose says Boyce went to an HWCU. Yeah, I wanted to go to an HBCU, but I could not get into one. I didn't have any money coming out of high school. And also I did talk to Howard about possibly teaching there. I interviewed with a Chinese guy who was the head of the finance department, and it just didn't work out. But I decided that instead of going to teach at an HBCU, I wanted to create one. So we created the Black Business School. We have 142,000 students worldwide. Most of them pay less than $500 total. 95% of them have paid us less than $500 or something like that. It's some high percentage. And so you can actually get started for free. And we have experts and billionaires and millionaires and business owners and real estate agents and lawyers and PhDs. They come in and teach our students, and they teach them well. And our fundamental principle is a little bit different from a lot of HBCUs in one fundamental way. We believe in what we call the Black core of three. The Black core of three is that we believe that Black people should educate our own children, create our own jobs, and support Black businesses. That is what we believe, and that is what we stand by. So the three pillars of wealth is where we begin the conversation and end it. The three pillars of wealth are real estate investing, entrepreneurship, and stock market investing. We give practical advice where we want the whole family to be educated on this fundamental idea that every Black child in America needs to learn how to start a business before the age of 12. We also believe that every Black child in America needs to own shares of stock on the day that they are born. We also believe that every Black child in America should understand that real estate ownership is the key to economic power. And the other piece is that we believe that chasing jobs is not the solution for Black people. Not to say that there's any shame in having a job, but a job should be a temporary stop, or at the very least, if you are a person who has a job, you should get to the point where you own assets. You should not measure your success economically on how much money you make or how fancy your title is, because studies have shown clearly that that means nothing when it comes to closing the wealth gap. What you measure your success on as a Black person needs to come down to what you own and what you control. You are in a game of power. Employees will never have more power than the damn boss. The renter will never have more power than the owner. The consumer does not have more power than the producer. So there is a strategic effort, and sometimes it's implemented even by some of the HBCUs, unfortunately, a strategic effort to ensure that Black people remain the consumers, we remain the renters, and we remain the employees. That's why most universities take tremendous pride in the number of Black people they've prepared for jobs. Why do you think schools like Howard and Spelman are named after white people? Well, because they said we need more people in our working class. So let's get these Negroes trained up so they can come and work for us. So I'm not saying there's anything wrong with you working for anybody. You can do whatever you want. I'm not judging that. But if you take ownership out of the equation, you will lose the game of wealth in America. That game is not won by people who work for other people. It's won by the people who become bosses. So to that extent, while I don't consider, everything Jay-Z and Will Smith everything they do to be perfect, this does not sound like a bad venture. This sounds like they're bosses of something. Nicole Hannah-Jones. I'm not dissing everything she's done. The 1619 Project is excellent. She's a great historian, but she's not so great at building wealth, because if she were great at building wealth, she wouldn't need the Ford Foundation and whoever, the MacArthur Foundation, to go pay the bills. She would be able to endow her own chair as opposed to looking to liberal white people to endow the chair for her. So if you want to know what the next generation is going to have to look like, Black people are going to have to be in control of institutions that impact Black people. And right now, that is not the case at most HBCUs. That's why I circle back to Dr. Claude Anderson. Why is it that the whole Black community loves Dr. Anderson, and Powernomics is one of the most spoken about economic texts on the planet? It is the foundation for what millions of people are doing in the Black community when it comes to wealth. Yet at the same time, Howard University to this day has never had Dr. Anderson on campus. The reason they can't have Dr. Anderson on campus is because Dr. Anderson is a Black man who is not afraid to be highly critical of the white power structure. That does not fit their interest, and that's why they run away from people like him. So as long as you run away from the free Black people and you run toward comfortable slavery, then you're only going to be building a nation of slaves, and your wealth gap is going to continue to drop. So that's just what it is. So I'm going to go, guys. Please hit the thumbs up button, share, subscribe button. I didn't mean to be overly critical of Nicole Hannah-Jones. I actually like these people. I just can't. But I have to give you raw truth in terms of how I feel. I can't pretend like, I can't say things in a way that sounds nice all the time. I just have to say it in a way that sounds true. And one other thing here, give me a second. I gotta get rid of this. I got a troll in here, so I gotta get rid of the troll. Also, if you are B1, don't forget we're having the All Black National Convention that's going to happen at the end of October. If you want to come out, it's going to be the end of October in Orlando. We're going to have breakout sessions in every type of Black wealth, from crypto to growing your own food to invest in the stock market to running your business. We're also going to do some things that will allow you to socialize with other B1 oriented people, intelligent Black people. So we're actually going to have speed dating for the first time. We're going to have a masquerade ball. We're going to also have some other breakout sessions and panels and networking groups and all kinds of stuff. So if you're interested, just clear your calendar for the end of October. Tickets go on sale next week, early bird tickets. And if you want to go ahead and reserve your hotel at a discount, you can actually go to abnchotel.com. The hotel took $100 off the price. It's a beautiful resort. It's very family friendly. You're going to love it. So if you are B1 and this is your thing, then feel free to join us at the convention. And also, if people like Ta-Nehisi and and Nicole Hannah-Jones are hearing this and they want to be a part of it or whatever, I invite them to come on this platform or to come to the convention and share their point of view. I'm okay. We're not threatened by alternative ideas, but at the same time, I need you to at least accept this basic fact. What you and the white liberals have been doing to this point has not been working. I know that it's great for you. I know that they're, putting money in your pocket. I know that they endowed your chair and they buy your books and they give you speaking fees and stuff, but they've done nothing to improve Black wealth. Why am I still reading in the Wall Street Journal that Black college graduates are the number one reason that the wealth gap is growing? That going to college is doing nothing to reduce the wealth gap. Well, I can tell you who is reducing the wealth gap. Black investors and Black business owners. That's who's doing it. They're the only group of people in America that probably have more money than white people. Did y'all know that? I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to do a straw poll. How many of you are doing better than most of your white friends? Give me a yes or no in the chat. How many of you in this room right now are doing better economically or in terms of wealth or investing, are doing better than most of your white friends? Give me a yes in the chat. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why. See, because I see this. You know what? I was in the Uber tonight. Me and my wife went to see this group called Infinity Song. I talked about them on my Instagram. My Instagram's The Real Boyce Watkins. We went down to this place on the south side of Chicago called The Promontory. And this group called, in my IG is The Real Boyce Watkins. You can check out the group there. And there's this beautiful singer, best singer I've ever heard, by the name of Victory Boyd. And their father, John, has become a great friend of mine, and I love him. He's 100% B1. He brought the family to one of our events, and I've been friends with him ever since. Now they've become really famous. Jay-Z actually signed them to Rock Nation, and that made me really happy because they deserve all their success. The daughter, Victory, actually wrote 3 songs on Kanye West's last album, so they've blown up. They're legitimate superstars. But let me tell you what happened. So I'm at the event, just supporting my friends. On the way home, the Uber driver says, "Oh, you're Dr. Boyce Watkins, the financial literacy guy." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh man," he said, "I'm making financial moves because of you." He said, he's telling me about the business he started. He was talking about the investments he's making. He talked about the things he's teaching his son. Earlier that same day, another brother came up and said, "You look familiar." I said, "Yeah, my name's Boyce Watkins." He said, "Man, I have a business because of some stuff that I saw on your channel. I've been watching you for years. Oh, and I own stock because of you." Right? So here's what my point is. My point is not to brag. My point is to actually tell you, see, I'm a financial scientist, and you guys are the subjects of the science. I not that you're a guinea pig, but you are. And I look at you. I look at the data. And when I see you in the streets and you're telling me that you're buying shares of stock for your children, you tell me that you bought your first home, when you tell me that you started your first business, I'm seeing what this is doing. I'm seeing that you're feeling empowered for the first time in your life. I'm seeing how this is changing your life. Why is it changing your life? Well, because you're doing something different. You're not following standard Negro protocol, which you call the SNP, the standard Negro protocol. The standard Negro protocol is go to school, work hard, go deep in debt so the white man will give me a good job. That doesn't work. And I've been telling you guys for years that does not work. It does not mean college is for suckers. I'm not saying that at all. It means college is irrelevant. That's what it fucking means. It damn near means college is damn near irrelevant if you haven't handled the basics. It doesn't mean it's always irrelevant, but it can be irrelevant if you go to college and you get a skill. And even if you get a good job, if you learn nothing about wealth, then you don't understand basic things like it's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep. And it's also what you do with that money that you keep that determines what your wealth is going to be. The income doesn't mean anything without putting it into the context of wealth. Wealth is the key. Wealth is the one thing that if we can get it through our thick heads, that's what we need to focus on, and developing businesses and industry and investment capital for our people, that's going to get us ahead. And so do you want to know why I changed my whole mindset on Jay-Z? I used to be so critical of Jay-Z, and I felt I was real annoyed with him about 7-8 years ago. I became more supportive of Jay, not completely though. I don't agree with everything he does, but I became more supportive of Jay when Jay seemed to be trying to help people understand that message. Will Smith, I've never met Will Smith, but I talked to his brother Harry, and I talked to his brother Harry twice. Each time we talked for about 2 hours. And talking to Harry reminded me of why the Smith family is so successful. These are very smart Black people. They are very smart. They're not stupid people. Harry is a financial expert. So when Will was making all that money from all those movies he was doing, Harry was the financial guy who was making the investments with the money, from what I understood. He was playing a part in saying, okay, how are we going to flip this? How are we going to put this money in places where we can build an economic empire that will sustain the family for many generations? And so these things don't happen by accident, y'all. I'm just telling you. Like the answers are right in front of us. The biggest challenge we have right now is the battle against all the propaganda that's designed to keep you broke and stupid. You have a lot of propaganda out here. You got the liberals that are constantly telling you that you're a victim. You got the rappers telling you to go out and create babies, mamas, and kill each other and get high on dope and throw your money away. You've got the school system that's training you how to be an employee and nothing else. And you got to circle around all that propaganda to get to the sweet spot. The sweet spot is when you start talking about wealth. That is when you're going to become successful. That is why in this space, there is no wealth gap on this platform. Those of y'all that have been listening to me more than 3 years, that have done at least 5% of the things I've talked to you guys about since 2017. I've been talking to you for 20 years, but even if you've been here since 2017 and you've done 5% of what I've said to do, you are probably doing as well economically as the average white person. So the wealth gap does not exist in this space. The laws of economic gravity, socioeconomic gravity, those laws don't apply in this particular space. Why? Well, because you are different. You are special. You're doing something different from everybody else. That's why your family is better off than everybody else. Let's be solution-oriented, Black people. Let's stop sitting around complaining about the problem. Let's fix the damn thing. You can fix it. So I got to go. Final conclusion. I don't think there's anything wrong with Will Smith and Jay-Z's venture. I think that Nikole Hannah-Jones should use more appropriate language and stop using that word predator. You sound like somebody from the Me Too movement, because everybody's trying to call the black man a predator, and we don't need any more of that shit. And also, if you can't talk respectfully, then let's not even talk about it. And then also remember this. If you can't create a better model, then all you're doing is complaining. It's time for us to create models and to solve real problems and stop complaining about other people's solutions. So I got to go, guys. And I'll also say I didn't mean to be mean to Hannah. I just kind of had to tell the truth. So have a good night, everybody. Hit the thumbs up button, share, subscribe button. My Instagram is right there. It's The Real Boyce Watkins. Also, this podcast has an audio version. It's the Dr. Boyce Breakdown. If you look up the Dr. Boyce Breakdown on Spotify, you can find it that way. And if you want to reserve your hotel for the All Black National Convention, it's going to be at the end of October. You can go to abnchotel.com, and that's where you can actually reserve your hotel and lock it in. We're going to be there for the 29th through the 1st of November, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So I hope you guys will join. Hit the thumbs up button. I'll see you soon. Take care. Good night. Peace.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones who late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV. Here we are.